Good afternoon. My name is Heidi Dixon, and I'm a chaplain for Lumen Health, and our mission is to light the way and make the most of what is. And I think maybe we're just starting again. So, hi, my name is Heidi Dixon. I'm a chaplain for Lumen Health, and our mission is to light the way and make the most of what is. And I am as excited about today's time together as I was nervous about it last week. And that's because we're talking about caregivers today. And uh, I, I have some personal experience with caregiving, and the way I see people doing it is such a contrast to how I feel like I did it. And so we'll talk about that more in a minute. But today's post really is born out of some conversations that happened after last week's post. And last week's post was about finding your gifts and your giftedness and sharing it, and regardless of what other people say. And the conversations that followed was with one of my coworkers who's a younger mom and has young kids at home, and still feeling like this is so consuming, and I'm not there yet. Or I had another conversation which was really entertaining with a friend of mine whom I actually never met. We've just been friends we have a common friend, her brother. And so our conversation went like this. I was asking about her hobbies, and she said she didn't have any. And then in the next sentence, she said that the garden was finished. Everything had been canned, including the 3rd batch of salsa, 5 batches of jalapeno jelly, 94 jars of tomato soup, and 8 batches of banana bread. And instead of homeschooling her kids like she did when they were young, she mentioned still having kids at home, though, in school, and helping with her grandbabies and 3 sets of aging parents. And so I said, I know you're going to disagree with me, but you sound like a saint. And she said, oh, heavens no. She said, what you do is saintly. I'm just tired. And that resonated so deeply with me and made me laugh all at the same time, because she is all things to all people, and she sees what I do as saintly. And I clock in and I clock out. And there is nothing particularly saintly about that. And so today in our time together, I want to talk to those of you who are at home, who are not clocking in and out, but those also, I'm not excluding those who are clocking in and out, because our aides and our nurses, and particularly those who are caring for other people in their bodies and their immediate needs, this includes you. G.K. Chesterton said something pretty beautiful, and I want to share that with you. He said, how can it be a large career to tell other people's children about the rule of 3, and a small career to tell one's own children about the universe? How can it be broad to be the same thing to everyone, and narrow to be everything to someone? No, a woman's function is laborious, but because it is gigantic, not because it is minute. I will pity Mrs. Jones for the hugeness of her task. I will never pity her for its smallness. And for those of you who are caregiving, you just do what needs to be done, and you never think of it on the whole, or able to step back even. And so I want to bring you out of your living room, or the back bedroom, or the laundry room, or the kitchen for a minute, and just tell you how I see you, and a little bit of my own experience in caregiving and why I continue to marvel. And one of the beauties of home health and hospice work is that we get to come to you, and we get to see you in your home and all of its wonder. And not a lot of people get to do that. So I think part of my responsibility is to share the gift that you are to me and to those of us who get to come and visit you, and that you allow us to come. And I think it's difficult to recognize caregivers as superheroes because they're too busy to take pictures of what they're doing. They don't have enough hands. They don't see it as a big deal, and few other people see it. And so it's just hidden. And you don't get paid. And if you do get paid, you probably don't get paid very well, oftentimes. And you don't toot your own horn because you're too busy and you don't think it's a big deal. You just feel like you're fulfilling an obligation, or you're just operating out of a sense of duty. And you don't see anything special or heroic about that. And the fourth reason, which is the most fun one to talk about, is that you don't wear capes. And I've spent some time thinking about why don't caregivers, who I see as superheroes, wear capes. And I've come up with 4 reasons. And the first one is that you do wear a cape, but you put it on the front and it looks like an apron, so people don't recognize that it's a cape. The second reason is that you don't have the time or the energy to go to the cape store. The third reason is that it would get in the way, which you know it would. And the last and probably most likely reason that you as caregivers, and I'm sorry, but I'm calling you superheroes today, and I know that probably makes you uncomfortable, but is that it would just be one more thing to wash. And really, who needs that? You don't, I know. So I always marvel at people who seem to thrive in their caregiving roles, and they do it with joy and they're fulfilled in it. And I'm talking to people who do it for a living. I'm talking to people who are at home with little kids. I'm talking with people who are raising grandkids. I'm talking to people who are taking care of their spouse or a sibling or their parent. You know who you are. And my profound awe and respect for watching you in action comes from my own experience. I've mentioned before, my mom was in a car accident when I was 16 and she was 43, the age I am now. And I could say, well, I was just a kid and therefore I was a bad caregiver because I was a kid. And I think there is some truth to that. But I look back and I was resentful a lot of times. I was bitter. I was impatient. My mom would probably be happy to go on about all the ways that I did it poorly, but we did get it right. We had a lot of moments of joy, and I certainly grew up in a hurry being thrust into this caregiving role. But I look back and I see people who are doing it in such a different way than I did it. And I marvel. And I keep kind of waiting for the truth to come out. And no doubt it's hard. And they're honest about that. They're not trying to impress anybody with how well they're doing this thing. They just really don't give it a lot of thought at all. But that's part of the reason I wanted to address it today, because I'm such a huge fan. And when I express this to people in real time, they don't really know what to make of it. So I talked about, you probably don't have a picture of you doing your caregiving thing. And I do have one picture of me caring for my mom, and she's still living. She's been in a wheelchair for 26 years now, so she's still with us. And I'd like for you to meet her another time. But I have this picture that I'm going to share with you because my friend in college had a photo project, and she asked if she could come and take a picture of us doing our thing. And so I hope you can see. I realize I've been looking at myself over here in the corner, and I haven't been looking at the camera all along. But this is me transferring my mom. And you can see her death grip. You can see, I don't even know if her feet are on the ground. She's 5'9" and I'm 5'10", so maybe her feet aren't quite touching. But this, for me, is what caregiving looks like, has looked like in my life. And I love this picture because it reminds me that it's hard. And it's not just hard for the caregiver, but for the person being cared for. And if you don't have a picture of what you do or what you've been doing, and probably for years, maybe you could get someone to take it for you, so you can treasure it, and when your back is hurting, you can remember why. So I'd like to share a thought. Back when I was at home and raising kids, I stayed home for about 9 years, with the exception of a job with St. Vincent de Paul, working with the poor, because I was losing it at home. One of my kids wouldn't pick up a Lego one day, and I thought, I need to get out of here. I'm about to lose it. But this book is called Holiness for Housewives, and please don't be put off by the title. It's about recognizing the importance of what you're doing that no one else sees and that may not feel very satisfying to you in the moment. And it was written by Dom Hubert Van Zeller. And he says, God does not issue 2 lists of professions, to which I would add, ways to live or things to do. He says, God does not issue 2 lists of professions. On the one side, those that are conducive to holiness, and on the other, those that are not. Unless the work attempts to oppose faith or morals, it may be assumed to be a work that is capable of promoting sanctity. It conduces to your perfection and does not contradict it. Through it, and not in spite of it, you achieve your purpose of serving God perfectly. And he goes on to say, the only thing that really matters in life is doing the will of God. And once you are doing the will of God, then everything matters. But apart from the accepted will of God, nothing has any lasting reality. So if God wills that you should be bowed over the sink instead of over the pew in your favorite church, then washing dishes is for you. Now, the most perfect thing you can do. And that made me pause back then, and still does, because sometimes I think when we are in a caregiving role, we feel like it shouldn't be this way, or there are other things that would be better for me, or that would be more satisfying, and no doubt that is true. But I think it's good to be reminded that you are perfectly serving God and whomever it is that you're responsible for, and it's your way to perfection, at least for the time being, and that can change, and that was the case with me. And it's changed many times, and it probably will for you too. So I wrote a song back when my youngest son was a newborn, up in the middle of the night. And after talking with the friends and hearing, that I'm tired, and watching people in their home caregiving, I resurrected it. I dusted off the old song binder from long ago, and I rewrote some lyrics for you, about you, and I want to sing it for you today. And I'm going to sing it a cappella, which to me, because when you're a caregiver, sometimes you don't hear the music in the background. You can't see the beauty of it. It's just raw, and it's messy, and it's tiring. And so this song starts, I left the first and one of the last phrases is the same, but I've changed the rest with you in mind. And I just want to thank you for showing me what love and perseverance looks like. And so when I first wrote the song, I titled it Uninspired, and I've changed it to Ode to a Caregiver. So here goes. I just put my youngest to bed and heard this song in my head while I was sitting and rocking him and talking to my maker. I'm so glad to be home with my 3 boys, but I'm tired. There is nothing else I would rather do. I'm so grateful, just uninspired. She just pulled her husband up in bed, Her back hurts and her eyes are red. Now dishes and laundry and tears to shed. Whatever happens, we'll deal with it. She is so glad he can be at home, but it's taking everything she has. There are other things she would rather do, but she said she would, and so she'll last. They care for parents, grandkids, and neighbors. Few see and fewer mention their labors, or the gap between the value and wages. And the difference couldn't be any greater. They are so glad for the time they have with their people, but they're tired. No one else will do it, and if so, then do. I guess it's up to you, though uninspired. I heard Our Lady whisper in my ear, your people are treasures, guard them dear. They're the most important thing you'll ever do. Until they get to heaven, they'll count on you. We are so glad to be at home with your people, but you're tired, and it's good to know that you are not alone. And superhero you has inspired. You have inspired. You need to know that. And continues to fuel my perspective and what I do. And so thank you for your example and for your time today and for sitting down and taking 10 minutes for yourself. I hope you will feel it was worth it. And I'm going to close in a prayer. And before I do, we haven't asked you to comment or share before now. And that's, but if you're a caregiver or you know someone, we really would love to hear from you. If you can comment on the Lumen Health page. If you share it and other people comment other places, I don't get the joy of seeing those or responding. So would love to hear from you. And we'll close in this prayer, which is actually an Anglo-Saxon prayer from somewhere between the 600s and the early 1000s. And that prayer goes like this. Have mercy on your servants and consider our miseries, how we totter with a tired spirit. Come now, King of heroes. Do not delay too long. We have need of mercies, that you free us and faithfully give us the healthful gift, that ever after we may always thrive in the thing that prospers among the people, your will. Amen. Thank you for your time today. God be with you.